Hey everybody, it's Tim Totten with Final Embrace and the Lake County Mask Creators. I'm in my workshop in Umatilla, Florida, and I'm going to be showing you how we make this cool new mask design. Now, our masketeer, Winnie, brought this to us. We're used to making pleated masks, but in fact, this mask goes north and south. And why it's so cool is that when I put this on, the pleats are going to let it form right over my nose, and you'll see how it's formed. Let me bring you a little closer. You'll see how it forms that right over my nose. So that when I put my glasses on, even though there's not a nose wire in there, it doesn't fog up. I'd have to blow really hard for that to happen. And what's really great too is that because it's away from my face, my lips aren't actually touching the fabric, and I feel like I have a little more room in there. It is a little pressure here on the top of my nose, which I like, and it hooks under my chin. Your results will vary, obviously, but because it's got that elastic and I can put these little locks on it, well, then I can make it tighter or not tighter. It's fantastic. Now, I want to show you what you need to make this. So let's bring it down to the table. We're going to need a couple of pieces of 6.5 by 9.5 inch fabric, and I have two of those. This is my Star Trek fabric because I'm making a mask for myself. I'm going to need two of those cut out, and I'm going to get a couple pieces of elastic. Now, I'm going to cut these a little longer. For me, these are 10 inches because this is going to be for mine, but you could cut them 8, 7, depending on how big the face is you're putting them on. But even better, we're going to take some of these small cord lock type of things that I've purchased on a major online retailer named after a river. And I'm going to hook those on later. So in fact, they'll go on like this on that mask that I created. Now, what we're going to do with this is actually so easy. We're going to put our fabrics together and we're just going to sew along the two 9.5 inch sides. And we're going to leave the other sides open. And I'll show you why that is in just a minute. So let's go over to the sewing machine so I can show you. I'm going to spin you around so you can see what we're doing at the sewing machine. I like this a lot. Let's see. Oh, there we are. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to take those two pieces. Now, if I had one of them that was sort of slipperier or softer than the other, I would put it on the top so that I could move it around. And I'm just going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which for us is the width of the presser foot. Now, normally I would back stitch at the top and the bottom, but we're going to trim these off at an angle later, so it doesn't really make sense to stitch them. And I'm going to come back to the other side, make sure everything's lined up. Yeah, and I can sew from either side here because these fabrics are the same weight. Just using that 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I've got that on the two long sides. Now we're going to come over here to our ironing board. Ooh. And I've just set up a temporary iron, but you should always have an iron right near your sewing machine. So I'm going to fold this thing in half long ways, or as they call hot dog, right? I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to use my iron because I think it helps. I think if you want to elevate your sewing, you should always use an iron. And then we're going to fold it again the short ways, like this. I'm going to also iron that. And really that's just to get enough power through there. All right, our next step is going to be to cut off that angle. And because we've ironed it this way, we now have two folds here, and we have all 4 of our corners right in this area. I'm going to put the folded corner at the very edge of 2 lines. And that lets me measure over 3 inches and up 1.5 inches. Now you might have a board that has actual 1/2 inch lines. I'm just gonna look at it in my brain, and I can kind of figure out where the 1/2 inch line is. And I'm gonna use a ruler, and I'm gonna put it at the 3 inch mark and at the 1.5 inch mark as it crosses the fabric. And then I'm just gonna cut those corners off. So all 4 of those corners come apart. And now if we open up this fabric, we've got that as our look. Now what we want to do is go back to the iron. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this just to make this my life easier here. I'm going to go ahead and just press it flat because again, I like lots of iron. And I'm going to fold over about 1/4 of an inch or maybe 1/2 inch somewhere on this fabric. on the edge that's open, because remember we left a little part open. I'll do it again here just to show you. I'm gonna fold this, one of the fabrics back about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. And I'm gonna put my iron on that and just give it a nice little iron. And I'll flip over, and using those lines to show me where to do it, I will do the same on the other way. Now you don't have to do this if you feel comfortable turning 1/4 or 1/2 inch without having to flip that fabric back, but I'm gonna do that. You could certainly do it, but I'm gonna do it the correct way. I made another video of this where I just kind of winged it while I was at my house. And now I thought I'd do the real way. And then the last thing I do is gonna flip this entire thing back here. This is gonna make my life a little easier. And I'm gonna, because I can always iron this back out, now I'm gonna iron it backwards. This is gonna get it out of the way so I can put in our elastic. Make sure all your folds stay in there. And again, you know, this is maybe a little bit of overkill, a little too much, but I wanna show you the absolute correct way, and then you can shortcut it later. So now I have this piece that sort of looks like these funky shapes, almost like we're doing origami. We're gonna go back over to the sewing machine and add our elastic. So let's go back to the sewing machine. Let's try to actually look at things on the sewing machine this time. Now, I need to sort of flip open that little piece that I had sewn, and I'm gonna take my elastic and I'm going to stitch it right at that folded corner. So I'm gonna come in here and just go real quick, just a little stitch right at that folded corner. In fact, let me give you a different angle of this. Woo. So you get a better idea of what I'm doing. Oh, we'll get you right down in there. I've stitched it right at that sort of that fold where that fabric goes back. I'm gonna make sure that the elastic is flat, bring it back over to the other side, and I'm just gonna tack it. I'm really just tacking it because I'm gonna stitch over top of it later. All right, so that's been done. We now have our elastic here. I'm gonna tuck it inside. I'm gonna open up the other fabric without getting rid of these pleats, because I'm gonna need that sort of pleat that I have ironed in. And I'm gonna come back over that elastic just to make sure it's really held in there. So, all right, that's one side done. I'm gonna come and do the other side. Again, remember, open that fold out. Right at the point where the fold goes, I'm just gonna tack the elastic. And if you feel comfortable just throwing the elastic in there and sewing it all at once, you could easily do that. And the shortcut video that I made that shows me doing this at home after a long run, well, yeah, that has the more, the less structured version. So I'm gonna shove the elastic down inside there, right? It's going inside. I'm gonna flip that fabric back open, leaving the fold though that's been ironed in. Come back over it, again using our 1/4 seam allowance when I do that. And I can imagine if you were assembly line sewing this, it might be, ooh, twist you around. It might be a lot easier to do this assembly line with a bunch of them. So now I have this entire piece, and I'm gonna, and it's got holes on either side, right? Let me put my fingers in. I'm just gonna turn this inside out, flip the entire thing inside out. You can use that elastic to sort of pull it out if you want. And what the great part is this area where we had done that fold, those are still staying there. So it's gonna let me turn those in real easily. Now, one of the things that I definitely need to do is get my wood turner here, and I'm gonna put it inside and just straighten out all these edges, right? Where the two fabrics come together, those seams, especially working on this point. This is like a, you know, a 20-degree angle or something. We wanna make sure that we really get into that point and push it out with our pointer. Now, here's the thing. Do not use scissors to do this. Don't use a pen. Every single person who's ever done that has shoved the pen or the scissors right through the fabric. Not a good look. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all those points out there, right? I can run my wooden turner, or we used to be called a bone turner because they were made out of bone. They make them in plastic and wood now. Oh, this one's a bamboo one, so. Okay, I got all that around. Now it's time to go to the iron and press this bad boy. Now, here's the thing to remember. We want to make sure that these corners where we already had a fold get turned under. And it's great because that fold's already there, so we just have to follow the line that was already there and turn those under. Perfect, look how nice that looks. So we can pin that if we want, or I'm just gonna sort of press with my finger for the moment. And then the other side, same thing, make sure we turn those in. You wanna get your elastic out of the way because some elastic, braided elastic specifically, it's just filled with polyester and plastic, and it can melt very easily. And then you've degraded your plastic and it's your elastic, and it's not going to be as useful. This is more of a soft elastic, that's almost like a jersey material, which I really like because it's very soft on your head. So I'm not as worried about this, but I'm still going to take a little bit of care. And I love a lot of steam. All right, look at that. So that's the mask. We just need to put some pleats in it, and you can do pleats really however you want. You could just do 2 or 3 pleats across the front if you really felt it necessary. What we're gonna do though is, and I'll show you here, is we're gonna put in pleats at sort of like every inch. So we're gonna go in the middle. I'm gonna put this at 40 and 8 where those corners come in. So I know now that 40 and 46 on mine, which puts 43 at the middle. And I'm just gonna quick put a pin at the middle, at the top and the bottom. Winnie suggests that you just go over an inch for each one of these. So I'm gonna sort of do that. I'm gonna do an inch for each one. I think she uses marks just with a pen, which I think is fun too, like on a lighter fabric, or you could use like a chalk pencil or something if you had one. I'm not doing that. I'm obviously gonna do this funky way. And then I'm gonna add the same at the bottom. Now you don't have to use all these pins. I mean, I'm obviously using a lot of pins. It's not necessary, but you know, it's, you could even just do this by hand at the machine. And I think if you did enough of these, you would get really good at figuring out just where to flip and twist to pull it. Or you could do it like I just did and shove a pin right in your finger. All right, so we're gonna go to the machine here. And I am going to, for these purposes, sort of fold these back, fold that to the middle, fold this one to the middle, and now I have those. And I might take a bigger pinch. I might like go over more like 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches. So I'm gonna take a bigger pinch, and I'm just sort of folding that, using it to fold on top of the others. Look at that, right? To put those pleats in. And I'm gonna use about a 1/4 inch seam allowance when I do that, because that's what Winnie says to do. So I'll push this one in first, just bring the 2 pins together. And then this one, I bring the pin a little further back so it's not overlapping the others. Oh, it's gonna look so good. And then I just use that 1/4 inch seam allowance like we've used on everything else. Now I have the ability to leave my needle up and down on my machine, so I'm gonna do that and then pull this pin to meet the others. So there's like 3 pins all together. I'm gonna go really slow over those, by the way, because I don't want to break my machine, and then bring this together up and underneath. And again, it's the nice part about doing this way is you can kind of use the pin to pull it up. All right, now we have those pleats in the top. I'm gonna go down each side. And on the side here is where I'm getting that fabric that's been folded in, because there's no stitching in that yet. Now there is. All right, we go to the end here, turn, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna bring this pin to the middle. The next pin comes, remember we had to move it over a little bit. I decided I liked 1.5 inches rather than 1 inch. Bring that over till that pin gets really close. Oh, look at that. And then same thing on this side. We're going to leave our needle in the down position. If I want, I can even lift up my presser foot with my needle in the down position, move those over so all those pins are now in the same place. Stitch over partially, stop, bring this pin up, do the same thing, bring it in to where I'm happy with it. I know some people that will use a seam ripper to do this, sort of to grab the fabric and pull it. Not to rip the fabric, but just to pull it up. And remember, we're going to have to make sure we go down. And then finish up where we've gone over. Now, there you are. So I've got all of that together. Those pins came together in the middle, all 3 of those. These others came in close. I can take all of those out, right? And this is actually pretty much finished. Now the biggest difference is you got to figure out how you're going to put on these little doohickey things. The way we do that is we find the center of our elastic hanging off the side, and I like to pinch it together. And I have taken a, oh, there it is, it's hiding. I opened up a paper clip like this and just created a little loop at the end. Can you kind of see that there? Created that loop. Now I purposely crossed over the little flangey thing here so that I can easily just grab my material, see? And bam, pop through. So now I have a point, and I'm gonna take that point and I'm gonna push it through this little piece. And when I get down to the bottom, I've gotta squeeze the other point so that they'll go through. So both of them go through now. Pull it down. Oh, I'm trying to look graceful as I do that. And then that pulls it through. Yay, nice, how's that? And then I just do the same on the other side. Find the center, squeeze it, use my little funk, right, like that, and put through at the top and pull down. Take it off, and there is my Star Trek mask. So let me show you how this works when it looks like when it's on me. Let's make sure we did it right. Oh, look. I've got the whole crew right here on my face. Now, of course, you could do that. You could add the just the straps that we've been doing instead of elastic if you wanted, and put the beads on it like we've been doing for a lot of the kids ones. You can make this smaller or bigger. We will have some kids sizing so that you can make it a different size. But for now, that's Winnie's awesome mask with the sort of creatable nose bridge with no piece of metal in it. It's pretty fantastic. I don't know what she's calling this one or what the original creators have called it, but I call it awesome. Again, I'm Tim Totten with Final Embrace and with the Lake County Mask Creators. Have fun making these masks. Bye.